Hey everybody, welcome to the AI Guide, where we focus on the human impact of AI. I'm David. So, great story about AI and automation today. It's a cautionary tale. So it's clear that some things will be automated by AI very, very quickly, AI plus robots. But other things are going to take some time to automate. One of the industries that will take the longest to automate fully is industrial production, factories. There's a straightforward reason for this. And just so you know, I've worked around manufacturing for many years now, so I have a lot of first-hand experience with what I'm about to talk about. But factories are complicated, right? They have most factories have many different steps in production that are wholly different and require different automation and different solutions and different skills by the people working in those different parts of the factory. So this is a great example of this. This is from the Wall Street Journal. Made in the USA is easier said than done is the name of the article. It's talking about Stanley Black & Decker, which is a huge company, built a 90 million factory on the edge of Fort Worth, Texas. What they wanted to do was make Craftsman brand tools with unprecedented efficiency. But the automated system was a bust, it says. In March, 3.5 years after breaking ground, Stanley announced that it was closing the factory. The Craftsman plant was a high-profile example of a drive among U.S. manufacturers to bring offshored plants back to the United States. The high cost of American labor makes automation critical for plants to turn a profit. Turning manual tasks over to machines, which are supposed to churn out goods with minimal human involvement and maximum productivity, poses challenges. Indeed. The Craftsman Factory first-of-its-kind system was supposed to make tools so efficiently that costs would be on par with China. So a big part of the impact on this effort, of course, was COVID and the supply chain challenges that came because of COVID. This is what's called a black swan event. So you start something, there's an external event that happens that is unforeseen, that severely complicates your project. That's a black swan event, and COVID is a perfect example of one. So this Stanley Black & Decker is a monster corporation, $17 billion in revenue last year. The Fort Worth factory was forging the brand's iconic wrenches, ratchets, and sockets made from American steel. This would require devising a system that would increase both labor and material efficiency far beyond the norm. In this industry, work is typically done manually. That's the tool manufacturing industry. There's a video on YouTube you can see about this story. The video shows piles of unfinished ratchets and wrenches with scarcely any excess metal clinging to them, which is a very good thing. Usually they waste 50% or more of the original metal of a piece is waste. And this had almost no waste, so that part of it did work. They expected the factory to be in production within 18 months. That was a mistake. And I'll talk about all these things shortly. So the equipment they were using was made in Belarus. These were rolling machines. And when they required new tooling, it would take weeks to get the parts from Belarus. That was one of the mistakes that they made. Other parts of the plant had problems too. Despite the problems, the tooling designer, whose name is Greg Heltney, said workers still made thousands of sockets, but retailers didn't want them without the ratchets and wrenches that were also supposed to be made at the factory. So just for context, they say rival companies that make mechanics tools in the US say their factory lines are only partially, not fully automated. And this is a huge difference. They still rely heavily on manual work and workers' skills. For example, Nick Pinchuk, CEO of Snap-on, another premium brand, said that in 2010, the company's US factories had a roughly 100-to-1 ratio of workers to robots. 13 years later, it's 8-to-1, but the gradual transition helped the company identify optimal roles for humans and machines. Sometimes the ease of installing automation is a little bit overestimated, he said. So let me make a few comments here quickly before I wrap this up. First is automation takes time, right? This other company, Snap-on, spent 13 years doing a gradual automation process instead of trying to compress full automation into 3 years, which failed. So that is extremely important in factory automation is time. But you can see that the number of robots increased exponentially at Snap-on when they originally had in 2010 100-to-1 people to robots that is now down to 8-to-1. So the automation is partial but real. MIT professor of robotics Julie Shaw said, "It's really easy to undervalue the judgment and experience that someone brings to what seems to be a simple task." And I personally have seen this when automation has attempted to be introduced into a production step. Management underestimated how much value that employee was adding to the process based on their skills and experience. That couldn't be immediately replaced by AI. It would take time and training of a few years to replace that expertise. There was another factor that hit this whole thing. The core tool business had suffered a dramatic drop in demand after the boom times of the pandemic. This hit a lot of things, like it hit construction for a while, although that's turning around now, and it hit home goods and all that stuff, furniture, etc. Another problem was Stanley was trying to whittle down $6 billion of inventory. That's almost half their sales. That is a monster bloated inventory. Some employees said the Craftsman Factory seemed to be getting closer to solving its production problems before Stanley began thinning the workforce. This is another thing, is if you don't give it enough time, you quit shortly before you start succeeding. This is legendary in the business world. It happens over and over again. Craftsman mechanic tools continue to be made in Asia. So a cautionary tale. Factory automation using AI and robotics and sensors and all that, it takes time. 10 to 15 years time. If Snap-on is an example, which it's probably a great example. It's not a 2-3 year thing. So this means that a lot of factory jobs, particularly the higher skilled ones, will be safe for a decade at least. Automation will come, it will come eventually, and it too will hit an inflection point where enough problems are solved that it significantly accelerates into the exponential curve, but it's not there yet. So thanks for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and share. Really important, almost to 1,000 subscribers, the magic number. Also, click the link below, get your free AI resource. Prepare for your AI-dominated future at the peak of your career. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye.